We haven't even named the podcast yet, but I guess this is the first episode of what we tentatively have called Tribe Talks.
Tribe Talks.
Tribe Talks. Let's go.
Do we like it?
I like it.
Yeah, I like Tribe Talks.
Anyone have any other suggestions? We're open to ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the fans can name it.
Yeah.
All the fans.
Comment below.
The one fan.
So my name is Kim, and we have episode 1. We're going to talk a little bit about how Tribe came to be. And for that episode, obviously, we have Tom with us. You got to say hello so people can hear your voice.
Hey guys, what's up?
Everyone's heard you at the gym, but, you know, if they listen to this in their car or whatever, they got to recognize your voice a little bit better.
Right.
And then Alessio, of course.
Hello, guys. Alessio.
All right. So to kick off, I thought, and this might be a story that a lot of people in the gym haven't heard of, but we'll go into a bit of how both the two of you individually got into sport, athletics, fitness, and all that kind of stuff. And I think to make it easy, maybe we'll start with Alessio first. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of some of your background, but but where would you say that you discovered sport or fitness to begin with? And were you always athletic?
Oh, of course. Always athletic. Always athletic. By the recounts from my parents, I always had like a ball in my hand growing up. So I guess sports was always like the thing for me. I never sort of was interested in reading, writing, doing anything that was outside the realm of sports. So like I would say that was it from the start. And my dad was a pretty committed gym goer. He sort of went to the gym 7 days a week, was pretty jacked from when I was a kid. So still is more jacked than me. I think it was like I looked up to him. I always wanted to like look like him. So bodybuilding was the sort of starting point for me. So going to the gym, doing your standard splits of like bench press and squats and all that sort of stuff was.
So you did legs even in the beginning?
I did legs. I don't know if I did legs well, obviously. Tom probably did legs better than I did at the start. But as you know, like I think even in sporting teams back then, it wasn't a staple. I don't think that it was focused on enough back then to train your legs, to train Olympic lifting, to get all these like power movements in. It was more so just go in, do your bench press, do your half squat, and then sort of get out of there.
Surely.
Yeah, some curls and just sort of make yourself look good. And that was where it all started. I sort of got a bit of vanity about it. Then I just wanted to be like as big as I possibly could be. And that was sort of where the obsession came in.
Have to ask, back then, did you have short hair or long hair?
Short hair my whole life. I think I shaved it to the point where it just didn't want to grow anymore. So
it just got shorter and shorter.
Did myself a bit of a disservice. But I think that's pretty much where it started. And then from there, it progressed to training for a sport. And I'd be lying if I said that I was training for the sport specifically. I still had in the back of my mind that I wanted to look big and be jacked and all this sort of stuff. Wasn't necessarily performance-based, but training for sport became the new obsession, I would say. And then I put that extra time that I would otherwise be spending on getting myself jacked to maybe perfecting like my craft in baseball or soccer or whatever it was that I was interested in at the time. I don't think that it was ever enough focused on the sport. I think it was always the vanity that was sort of in the background, trying to like always stay a little bit pumped, always trying to be a little bit like jacked. But I think
we've all been through that phase.
Yeah. I think I'm probably still in that phase a little bit. But sport sort of evolved from that, you know, and the competitiveness and the commitment to your craft and training every day and not having a day off was like number one priority.
So you were disciplined straight from the get-go by the sounds of it.
Yeah, disciplined by ego, not disciplined because I really wanted it necessarily. I think I was disciplined by my own ego, not allowing myself to be any worse than I was yesterday, essentially. You know? I don't think it was from a pure place of wanting to be better in any specific situation. It was pure vanity at that time. And then I guess getting into CrossFit turned it from that vanity into a bit more performance-based. And not surprisingly, that's when my body started to transform the most, as soon as it became a more performance-based approach. And that's kind of what I guess, tribes developed from as well. you
Yeah,
know?
you hear that story a lot.
Yeah.
How about you, Tom? When did you see your first squat rack? Because I'm guessing that was pretty darn early.
Yeah, when I woke up, I was just born in a squat rack.
Straight to it.
I think like probably any other Kiwi family, it was all rugby league, rugby union, All Blacks. That was all I knew. I didn't really know anything else. I grew up playing rugby from pretty much as early as I can remember. I think I have a photo was when I was 3 and my old man was the coach. He pretty much coached me all the way up until under 16s. So it was rugby only. I didn't know anything else. Gym, probably didn't go to the gym for the right reasons, same as Les. I think that's probably where we have a lot in common. I think it was a lot of I just wanted to get a little bit bigger, look a little bit better. It was never anything specific. It was not for rugby. I wasn't there necessarily for the right reasons. I think a lot of training, especially with rugby, it was a lot of like mental clarity. My old man was I just flog you until you had nothing left. He was a very like mentally strong man, and that's where all of that came from. I think all of my training was just testing that mental strength. I think it was something he drilled, which was probably a good thing and a bad thing towards the end of it. I think I was so mentally drained by the time I was probably 15 or 16 that I just wanted to do anything else, you know?
Yeah,
But
wow.
it's probably something that's ingrained in me now. Like the thing that I think I relate to the most with CrossFit is sort of being in that place where I kind of just shut everything else out. I'm in my mind and I kind of thrive in that position. Like training, I've fucking got the worst attention span in the world. Like if we're doing something and it's not in a point where I'm dying, I'm not really there. And that's probably a good and bad thing. I think
Yeah.
when I have to, I can go there. But if I'm not there, I struggle to have anything in between.
So did your dad put you just through long outdoor sessions? Is that on the pitch type of thing, or
like footy training was just I think he had a very old school mentality with football training. It was just you run until you're dead, and if you make a mistake, you run. If you're lazy, you run. If you're late, you run. You know what I mean? Like very old
crazy,
school,
hey? Yeah.
old school mentality. There was no thought. It's not like it is now with S&C coaches and everything is athletic development and it's specific and
power?
It's,
You need power, right, for that kind of sport.
there was none of that. Like even when I was training, I remember back at school, it was just like whatever you did it till failure. You did it until basically you're the last man standing and nobody else can do it. And that's
Yeah.
where we took like a lot of our wins. There was no PBs. There was no like, you know, let's see if we can progress this squat into X amount of weight. It was who's going to last the longest and who's going to pull the pin first.
Yeah, it's last man
That's
standing.
back when it was cool to win.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it's not cool to win.
Hey, that
anymore.
sounds like early days of CrossFit, really.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's probably
Yeah.
why I like
Yeah.
it.
But you did say you went into the gym early to do some lifting. What movements did you do, like right back when you started? Do you remember?
Back then it was bench, squat, and curls. And
Oh,
that was-
okay.
and
So
that
still
was it.
same as less, really.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Like it was your big 3. I think that transition into Olympic lifting and more explosive dynamic movements has been like a recent addition.
Yeah. Because I've
Rugby-
seen All Blacks now. They power clean as well, don't
heaps of
they?
volley lifting. Yeah, CrossFit kind of introduced into the All Blacks training, I think maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I saw it. There's a few guys, like Owen Frank's brothers and stuff.
Yeah.
They introduced that.
Yeah.
Before then, it was very old school. It was like a lot more. Like we had Donnie Singe, who was our coach. He's at Manly now. He's like an ex-military guy.
Yeah.
It was all old school training. Like Shannon Ponton was an S&C for us back in the day, and it was just running. It was body weight movements. It was more skills focused rather than athletic development focus.
It's amazing how, when you think of it like that and when you hear those stories, it's incredible how much strength and conditioning has developed in the last, let's say,
Massively.
20 years. Because when we get so caught up in it, when you just think about it day to day, you're like, it's all just the same stuff. But it's
Yeah,
not really.
it's
It's
not.
changed heaps.
Yeah, the
Huge
guys these
heaps.
days have such a better platform to be able to grow as athletes and I guess prevent injury. But
Yeah.
whether it's working or not, I don't know. I mean, there's probably just as many injuries. Guys are fitter, stronger now anyway. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think
It's
social
probably
media has
relative.
probably helped that a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
fuck, you can go onto not necessarily social media, but technology in general. Go onto Google, you can find 1,000 different programs. You can
Information
see,
just spreads
yeah,
faster.
you can see it working on people, so you can follow people on social media and see this guy's been doing this. Okay, maybe I'll try that and get better at what I need to do. I can guarantee if we did CrossFit back in the day, well, CrossFit in the sense, more Olympic lifting, more power moves, learning to manipulate our bodies in a way that it was more efficient, we would be 10 times the athlete that we
it
were.
was a different
you
era
know?
back then as well, though. Like I
Yeah.
think when I grew up in that rugby league scene, like, I don't know, I feel like I have to be careful the way I say this, but like men were a little bit more like, do you know what I mean? Like it's very different now. I think you probably couldn't get away with the stuff that you could get away with
Oh
back
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah.
Like my old man was big, like, the way we showed emotions and all the rest of it was very hardened, I guess, in a sense. Like we weren't to cry, we weren't to
Yeah.
moan,
Less emotion,
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
less emotions. And you could basically just walk in there and just flog anyone that you wanted, and it was
Yeah.
you just did it, right? Whereas now I think you need to think about the way you train people and
Yeah.
the way you speak to people.
And now
it's
everyone
highlighted
gets a
bit more.
participation medal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing as well. I went to the girls' cross country and we weren't allowed to scream for individuals, and I was like, mate, watch me scream for my kid.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't telling me how to.
That's terrible.
But I mean, now it has gone too far the other way.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
because all the studies they've done now on the participation medals, it's all like negative. Like it's bad for kids.
Yeah.
To feel like they've done a bad effort, but they still get rewarded. That's not a good thing.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
They get into a real world situation after that, and it's like,
Oh, they.
I didn't get this job. What the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know? And they don't know how to deal with that failure. you
Yeah.
know? We failed many times when we were growing up. I don't know about Tom, but I didn't make teams like from 12 years old to 18 years old. I wasn't making shit, and
Wow.
that failure was like basically what drove me to end up being a professional baseball player, and all of those guys that made the teams that were in the right situation at the right time, that had the right relationship with the coach, all that sort of stuff. All of those guys dropped off as soon as we left school, because they didn't have their parents to like sort of guide them through that whole process of being in the right position to be on that team, But the failure that we experienced growing up was like everything in terms of
Yeah.
what created the success that we have now.
And it still is now. I think that's one of the things that I love about CrossFit at a later stage in your life is that you do fail pretty frequently in the gym, or you feel like you're not doing a good effort. And I think it's healthy feeling that. Obviously you don't want to feel like that all the time. That'll beat you down. But it's good to feel like you're bad at something one day, and then the next day, a year later, you're good at it.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
super rewarding.
Yeah, very, very important, I think. Obviously, it's fucking said all over the internet, like failure is what creates that, I guess, strength to be able to push through the adversity that you're going to face, No matter what, you're going to face adversity. It's just a fucking thing of life,
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so some people at the gym might not know, but and you alluded to it right there. You had a stint as a professional baseball player in the US.
In the US.
So how was the process? Like, when did you realize that you were going to be able to go over there?
In my mind, fucking from when I started baseball, I was like, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player, no matter what,
And you thought that as an Australian kid?
No matter
That's
what.
amazing.
I was like, fuck up. There's no way I'm letting myself not be a professional baseball
Which
player.
team
And
did you want to play
that
for?
wasn't just being a professional baseball. That was like, I'm going to be the best Major League Baseball player that there is, right?
Yeah.
And as a kid, you don't have like any of the doubts and all of that stuff in there, or the logistical, I guess, point of view. You just think like, I'm going to get there and that's it. But like I said, from 12 to 18, I was a fringe player. I was just like, I was getting it done. It was just raw talent. I was getting bigger and better as the years went on. And it got to the point where I was 18, you go through puberty, became 6'2", ended up being bigger and stronger than everyone else. And then at that point, not no one else, but a very few of the kids were actually focusing on their like strength and conditioning and being able to be resilient in that situation. And then I was the one at the end of the day that got not picked, but scouted to be able to go overseas and live out that dream,
So
I
you
was
had
pretty
American
late.
scouts coming over here.
We had a Padres and a Cubs scout come over. It was just on the whim. One of my manager at the time was Stuart Hanrahan. I don't know if he's managing anymore, but pretty important coach in my life at that time as well. He basically organized for them to come over, or whether they were coming over at the time anyway, but basically to watch me play. Did a little session with them, did a tryout, hit, did all that I needed to do. A week later, I think I went to schoolies, and then I came back after schoolies, and they were like, okay, I've got an offer for you.
Wow.
Or Chill was like, I've got an offer for you. At the time, I think 30 grand American, and I was like, "Yep, take it." I was late. I was 19 at the time, so
yeah.
it was like most kids were getting signed when they were 16 for fucking big bonuses too. They were getting like 250,000, $1 million, blah blah blah. But I was like, okay, in my mind, I was this loser that was very lucky to be there. So I was like, you know what, just take it.
Yeah.
Take the opportunity. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to study. I didn't want to do any of that. In hindsight, probably should have gone there, developed first physically a little bit more, had I have known that I was going to get so much bigger and stronger in the next 4 years. But took it, was like fucking ecstatic. It was probably the coolest thing to ever happen to me. Flew over the next year. Basically, when I landed, they told me I was going to be a pitcher. Or just before I left, they alluded to it. But as soon as I landed, I just changed positions completely. So I went as an outfielder hitter, changed to a pitcher, had to learn a whole new craft while I was over there. Long story short, went through like 4 years, played probably the lowest level of minor league baseball at the time, progressed to like second from the lowest, but still very high competition.
Yeah.
Very few people get the opportunity to do it, especially from Australia. So it was like a really good experience. Ended up getting the yips 2 years in. Don't know if you know what the yips is, but
No.
it's you kind of forget. Your brain kind of forgets how to do a very simple task because of fear, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
I could throw the ball to the plate perfectly at 100%. As soon as they hit it back to me, I'd pick it up and I'd throw it like 3 miles over first base's head, or I'd spear it into the ground or whatever. And that all stemmed from the fear of failure and the fear of upsetting a coach or of letting someone down. So basically, like my fingers were like had no feeling,
Yeah.
right? But
Wow.
that sort of ended up leading to, I guess, my downfall. I had my 4th year. I was still throwing really hard. I just couldn't control where I was throwing it. It was just a bit sporadic for their liking. They only spent 30 grand on me, so I lived with a guy that signed for $6.2 million out of high school. So you can see like the disparity there. Like in terms of how good we were, the difference wasn't that much, you know. But I was expendable. They have 50 new guys coming in every year from the draft. Obviously, easy decision to get rid of the Australian kid that we signed for 30 grand.
Yeah.
Off you go. From then, I was like, fuck you, dream's over. I'm going to go focus on something else. Came home, played rugby league for like 2 years. Went to Italy, played baseball there for a year. Did things that I really wanted to do. And like, as Tom said, like you get to the point where you're doing all of this stuff that's the right thing, and you're not drinking and you're not going out and you're not doing all this shit because you think that you're going to get to the point where you wanted to be. And then you get told no for a shit reason, for the reason of, oh, they can't be fucked to actually help you get through this mental battle. And then you're just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. You know, I'm going to go and drink. I'm going to go and fucking smoke weed. I'm going to go and do whatever I need to do to like make myself feel better and to catch up on what I've missed out on through my whole life, you know? Like you miss out on a lot being an athlete, you know?
Yeah, especially at that age, for
A lot,
sure.
yeah, man. Like fuck, kids grew
Wow.
up quick. I didn't even know people were doing fucking drugs, doing like smoking
this?
weed,
It's
Yeah.
weird.
like drinking every fucking week, you know?
Yeah.
That kids are like smoking at school. I was oblivious to it, you know?
So nuts.
But I think that's basically long story short.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I could ask a million questions about that. That's and we have talked about it previously too. But let's jump over to Tom a little bit with your sporting run or career, or what would you call it? Because you played rugby, right?
Yeah, I played league, union,
Over in New Zealand.
anything with a rugby ball. Yeah, I had a stint over in NZ, mostly here. I grew up here.
Okay.
It's probably the opposite to Les's experiences.
How's so?
I think as a junior, I was probably had all of the opportunities I could have imagined and didn't really understand what I had back then. Was in all of the right places, all of the right teams,
Had the right talent.
had the right talent, but had the worst mindset you could imagine. I was just one of those lazy people that didn't necessarily want to be there unless it was time to play, and kind of going back to where I said if I was in it, I was in it, and there wasn't a lot in between. It was very
Yeah.
much like that. Like if it wasn't game time, I was just my mind was everywhere. I was kind of anywhere else but at training or
So were you completely ditching trainings sometimes, or just
yeah,
not putting
yeah,
enough in
a
it?
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Like so, just as I guess to touch on it, like I played league and union. Mostly, I started with union and then transitioned into league. Like was a Manly junior, played all of the SG ball, Harold Matt. So those are like all of the I guess national level comps for 16 to 18s up until 20s. So I was like in the mix, I suppose. Um, just mentally, I don't think I had what it took at that level to be an athlete. I was probably the one that was out drinking, doing everything, still getting picked for teams, but didn't really deserve to be there. And I guess that kind of showed in the later years when I was probably doing too much. I got a scholarship to a rugby school, which is a good school. I was playing like probably my best year at 17 to 18. I was playing SG ball, which again is like, I guess if you don't know, state level league for the under 18s, and then had a scholarship to rugby school, really good rugby school. We were number one in Australia at the time. Trying to drink and do everything you can imagine that an 18-year-old wants to do whilst trying to be an athlete. Got injured. Did my shoulder, kind of tore all of the ligaments and muscles off the bone.
Whoa.
Ended up getting an operation, so got 3 plugs back in, screw and plug the muscles back to the bone at 18.
At 18, yeah.
At
Holy
18, and didn't really bounce back like I would have liked to have hoped at the time. It was just like a nothing thing. I was like, this will be fine. Like I don't need to do anything. I'll just walk back into a team. But like not really the case. I think after 18, especially in league nowadays, kids are making it so young. If you're not contracted fully by 20, it's hard. So like I was trying to get back into 20 squads. I was training squads for Souths and stuff like that. But I just missed that year. I guess that crucial year that sort of separated us from everyone else. Like you're always going to take the younger kid.
And were your athleticism not the same after the surgery, or did you come back fully, like physically? do
I
you
think
reckon?
I came back physically, but again, mentally, I didn't really have what it took. Like, I wasn't training hard enough. I wasn't one of those guys that was doing extras. I was doing the bare minimum to sort of just scrape through. And you see a lot of the guys now that I played with that are playing for Wallabies or playing in NRL were the ones that were probably on the opposite end of the spectrum, probably on the fringe. Your fringe players that mentally were just, they knew they were going to make it. They were going to do whatever it took to get there. Whereas I thought I could probably just walk into whatever I wanted, be good enough to get it and not have to do anything for it. Didn't really have the work ethic for it. I think I realize it now.
Hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, probably not. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say I regret it. Like, I think all of those things led to where I am now, and I'm happy now, so I don't think there's any level of regret. I think it could have been very different, but also, like, being able to recognize that I didn't have what it takes mentally, it's, like, probably just as important than being physically capable,
Yeah,
I think
100%.
that's probably 90% of it, and if you don't have it, you don't have it, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's not really something that I can sit back and be like, oh, I should have done this differently, because at the end of the day, playing, like, just to be blunt, I don't think I had it mentally to make it as a professional footballer at that time.
And at least you have the insight into learning from that. Like you know that about yourself now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good lesson to carry on with you. Yeah.
Which is, probably where, like, CrossFit has been, like, a bit of a saving grace now, because all of those things, and Les probably has experiences that are similar, that have kind of found us both at this point where we are on the same page and we both have this goal that we're working for. We kind of, like he said earlier, we both had such different upbringings but somehow ended up in the same place.
Yeah, different but similar as well, though.
Yeah.
With having such a big sport in your life.
Yeah.
I think with both of us, like, we talk about it all the time. Like, if we were to get everything we wanted at the time, I don't think we could have handled it mentally. I think that, for example, if Tom was to become an NRL player in that mindset that he was in, without having learnt all of the things that he learnt along the process, I think he would have ended up being fucking.
Yeah,
Josh
right now
Dugan
you've
or
been even
something.
worse off, right?
Yeah,
At your
exactly.
age you're at now.
He wouldn't have met Ruby. He wouldn't have had the kids. He wouldn't have had, like, all the stuff that he has now. And same token for me, if I was to become a Major League Baseball player in the mindset that I wanted just to be the best, be like have the fame and the money and all that sort of stuff and have it for the wrong reasons, I probably would have found myself in the wrong crowd, doing the wrong thing, probably being influenced by people quite easily because I am pretty easily influenced in terms of I have an addictive personality. I would never have met Amy. I would have never made time for Amy.
Yeah.
Even though she was in my life at the time in terms of being a friend. But like, it's basically everything that we've gone through has led to being in the absolute best position that I could probably ever think of. you
Yeah.
know?
So on that note, it's probably a good segue into, and feel free, either one of you, to answer first. Who remembers the first time you two met in person?
I don't know.
I feel like we'd kind of like, you know what the beaches is like. It's a very,
Insular.
that's
the word.
Everyone kind of knows everyone. So I think we kind of like
Probably
knew
stared at
of
each
one
other
another.
across.
Yeah.
Spotted each other on the beach.
Yeah,
I
at,
think
at
we-
Fitness First, maybe.
Yeah, fitness first. We both kind of trained at the same gym.
Oh, which one?
DY?
Oh, okay.
DY Fitness First.
Oh, you both trained there.
Both trained there before we ended up at Athletic somehow. But yeah, it would have been like first properly met at Brookie Athletic.
Yeah. Did you kind of what am I trying to ask here? So when you go to a new gym and start training, straight from the get-go, you kind of get a little bit of a feel of what people you get along with quicker than others. Did you two kind of get along straight away?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
neither of us really wanted to talk that much
Yeah.
either. We sort of just like obviously picked out the fact that we were both athletes. We both sort of came from that athletic background.
I think
And
there
we
was
had
that
the
like
same
mutual
mindset.
mutual respect.
Racing each other in
Yeah.
workouts?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't think there was that like Athletic was different. Hey, it wasn't as not as community driven, but like in that small performance group, it was very like you're here to train, right?
Oh, yeah. Hannah, Kylie,
Yeah.
there's no mucking around
Yeah.
there.
We didn't really do
Wait.
anything else
Yeah.
outside of that.
Yeah.
It was just there to train. That was like the goal, and that was it. So,
Yeah.
Also, two
I think because
raw
it was a little
talents.
bit older.
yeah.
Like a lot of people that were good in that performance group were a little bit older.
And they had their games
Yeah.
at teams, and we were probably the new guys that were kind of trying to like force ourselves into that.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
realm.
That realm.
Yeah, trying to be in the running to make a
Yeah.
team to go to games. Yeah.
That was
much.
probably where the familiarity came in, where we were like, okay, fuck, we both want to get into it. And then it sort of evolved into like training together with the same purpose. We had the same weaknesses. We were both strong when we turned up. We both sucked at gymnastics. We both couldn't like, obviously we had an aerobic base, but it got to the point where we noticed similar things in each other's game that we were like, okay, let's just fucking build together, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that was,
that personality kind of attracts often if you have the same weaknesses, right?
Yeah,
You're trying
yeah.
to, hey, how do you get better at this?
yeah.
Yeah.
And look at those guys. When the fuck are they better than us, sort of thing, you know?
Sounds like the same as now.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
Just on a bigger scale.
10 years down the track.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So then, and when you went there, had you already at this point transitioned completely from your sport and into CrossFit?
No, I think you had. I was there for maybe a year and a half, and then that was when.
Oh, so you're still playing and you were.
So I stopped because I had the
an idiot.
kids.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
I had a year where I finished, and then my partner fell pregnant, and then we ended up having twin girls. So I didn't play that year. That was a bit of a just trying to scrape through that year.
Yeah.
And then went to CrossFit. Did it for maybe a year and a half at Athletic, and then I ended up going back to rugby. I think that was right when they were sort of transitioning out of that performance crew. So I think they may have stopped it that year. Or maybe that was the year you made the games. I can't remember exactly how it worked out, but they ended up getting rid of that performance crew. So I ended up stopped training, went back to rugby
Yeah.
for a couple of years, and then came back. And then
Broke his shoulder again.
yeah, did my
Oh,
other
did you?
shoulder. Yeah, did my other
didn't know
shoulder.
that.
I was playing at the Rats, and then we had the local derby down at Manly Oval.
Oh, yeah.
landed
That
on
gets a
the
bit
cricket
brutal.
pitch. Yeah,
Yeah.
straight on top of it and tore
Tried to
the other
fucking
shoulder.
murder someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then was it a bit after that injury? You were like, okay, enough rugby,
Yes.
or yeah,
After that injury, I think kind of like halfway through the season, I knew I was done with it.
Yeah.
I was coaching rugby at Knox with Harriet Roberts at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we were coaching like CrossFit program, and I was coaching rugby union over there, and then trying to come back, do rugby training, trying to make the first grade team. It was like a 4-hour commitment every afternoon. Had 2 kids at home. And it
massive,
kind of,
eh?
so I think I knew like
Yeah.
early on, and then ended up doing my shoulder. It's probably what I get for doing something half-assed.
Told
Yeah.
him.
But
Told him from the start. Literally
interesting
said
how
you're
that
gonna
happens,
fucking
eh?
break
Yeah.
your shoulder.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, they're always.
Learning
I mean, the
curve.
hardest person to tell is yourself, though, with those things.
Yeah.
Because it's probably easy for you, Les, to tell them because you can see it from the outside.
Yeah.
But when it's yourself, it's
Yeah.
so hard, eh?
and
He was
sometimes,
younger
yeah,
too,
you like when you feel like you didn't do something fully. I always in the back of my mind was questioning whether or not I could have done more, you know. So I think I had to go back for that 1 year just to say, okay, I gave it like a proper crack. I definitely don't love it like I used to,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the end of it for me.
Yeah. I guess you don't know until you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know now. And then that's really when we like met properly, right?
Yeah.
Not long after I did my shoulder, I ended up coming to work with him at Chocolate Box, and then that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, I guess that's the kind of the beginning of where you guys transitioned from training at a gym and being trainers. I think both of you trainers, or and then
Yeah.
how did it roll into?
I started at Fitness First as a PT. Sucked badly. Wasn't really into going around getting clients and convincing people to come and train with me, because I was like obviously still professional baseball player at the time. I was
Still in
like,
front of the mirror doing curls?
I'm not going to convince you to train with me. And then he came on probably 6 months after me, essentially took my role as a new PT. And then he developed. I went over to another gym in the interim with Sky. I don't know if you remember Sky Pomponio now.
Yeah.
Brendan's wife.
Yep.
At F45, we created our own little sub gym outside of that was strength and conditioning, CrossFit based.
What was that gym called again?
Training yard.
Training yard. That's right. Good
had
name.
had a cool little membership base.
Yeah.
Tom's just gonna go. Yeah, I'm freezing, eh? From there, came back from the games. I think maybe Chocolate Box got wind that I was coming back from the games.
Yep.
Maybe heard that I was a good trainer or something through Wade Farmer, and I think Wade was transitioning out of Chocolate Box at the time as well, so they were looking for someone to come in and replace him in terms of programming. Then it was a sick gym, really cool space. You've seen it; it's fucking huge.
Massive.
Awesome people. It was a huge community as well, so it was like really exciting for me to go over there and almost kind of take off in my journey of fitness.
Yeah.
From there, Tommy ended up coming over basically to want to train together, so he got a job at the same time coaching like one class a week, so that he could come and train. Like we could train together and sort of make
One class a week. Really?
Yeah, literally just one class a week.
Yeah.
9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday or
Free
something.
membership.
I had my Thursday Arvo. Didn't have to
Wow.
pay membership, so it was a bit of a win for me.
Yeah. And from there, it was like, I think that's when we started trying to make teams together.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get to the point of making specific teams yet because we didn't have the talent pool of female athletes there yet.
Takes a while to develop, right?
Yes.
This was also in that weird little interim that CrossFit had where they got rid of regionals.
Oh, yeah.
They brought in those sanctionals. Those two sanctionals kind of really led to nowhere. So I don't know what everyone was doing in that time, but that was
I'm
where
not sure what happened in that time.
Yeah.
eh?
And
I
And
don't- I
team
don't
structure, wasn't
remember.
that when team structure were changing as well? Did they go to
Completely
changed.
4? Or I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
know.
They went to 4, but that's when they were making super teams.
Yeah,
and
that's
you could
right.
pull anyone from anywhere. So that's kind of like what we did that year, hey?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
girls ended up asking us,
Yeah.
which was cool.
Yeah.
And then that kind of like, I guess, started the whole thing.
So then, how did you decide to open your own space?
So, Chocolate Box had gone to Bali at the time on their little Bali retreat. While they were over there, the whole COVID thing sort of hit. They were sort of struggling to either decide to come back or live out the stay and then come back when they could, because a few of them were like worried about maybe not getting back because of the lockdown. While they were away, we were there sort of running a little bit of the programming in the classes with a couple of other trainers and stuff, and it was really cool. When they got back, we had obviously most of the businesses around would have had the conversation of, we're going to have to stand you down. There was obviously government support in the future, or in the very near future, that was going to assist us in being paid while doing stuff on the side for them as well. For us, I don't know if we took it very well. I don't think we took it maybe in the right way initially.
Yeah, it was kind of like long story short though.
Yeah.
It was chaotic as well.
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
really knew
yeah.
what was going on.
At the time, we were doing a lot. We were doing the online programming. I'd set up all the online programming before we got back, before they got back, so that it was ready to go for the members that could do online programming and all that sort of stuff. And then we made some videos while they were away, blah blah blah. And I think we took that stood down situation as, okay, fuck you, we're sort of going to go and do our own thing in the meantime and support our families. At the time, I didn't have Sienna. Tommy was like fairly new with the twins, so we were just like, you know what, like, we've got a client base in our heads. We'd brought many people over to Chocky Box. We'd created relationships with people to the point where we were like, look, we can probably do our own thing outdoors, one-on-one. And we came up with a basically a process where we'd drive the ute down to the Kel netball courts, fill it up with equipment. We bought a bunch of equipment from Sky and rented a bunch of equipment from her. Took it down to the netball courts. One of us would be on the other side of the netball court, and one of us would be on the other side. And they could come in a pair. So they would come with their friend, but they'd be training on opposite sides of the netball court. So it was one-on-one PT, but it's sort of like, I guess.
Fuck, you couldn't even have two people in a group back then. It's so crazy. So crazy.
But the plus side was that you could bring your friend and you could like look at each other and like sort
wave.
of almost conversate as you were doing it. And as it got more relaxed, or as we started to learn what was accepted and what wasn't, we'd sort of bring them a little bit closer together, and then slowly it evolved to being able to do like 2-on-1s and blah blah blah. Long story short, we ended up having a client base of about 50 people that were doing outdoors with us, and we were fucking in the trenches. We were waking up at obviously 4 a.m, getting there before light, unpacking the ute every day, packing it up again, going back in the afternoon, unpacking the ute, packing it up again. So it was like a boot camp instructor, and I'm saying it like we're the hardest workers in the world, but it was a bit of a grind at the time, you know. But you just find this extra energy because it was
a bit of a like sink or swim moment, right? Like even just going back to when they were in Bali and everything had happened, nobody knew if there was going to be government support back then. Like they hadn't released anything. I don't know about him, but like I had 2 kids at the time, and I was full time at Fitness First, so I had clients that were already willing to train. And we were willing to rent equipment and then basically just have anybody that was willing to train come with us. I think back then they weren't happy about us doing that. So it wasn't really just like us being like, all right, fuck you guys, we're going to go off and do our own thing. It was more so a fact where they were like, no, you can't do that. And we were kind of like, well, I kind of have to because I've got kids and I got a family and I got all these bills to pay. So I'm going to do it. And then if something else happens and it changes, like, I'll reassess then. But at that time, we were both just like, nah, fuck, we got no other choice. We're going to do it. And I think everything that's happened has kind of been stemmed from that mentality. You know, we went down to the courts, and then he eventually had to obviously resign fully, and then we had nowhere else to go. So it was like, okay, well, we've got nowhere else to go. I could have gone back to Fitness First or try and make something out of this. And I didn't want to go back to Fitness First either. So it was kind of just like, okay, well, we've got no option. Let's find more members. So we found heaps of guys that were willing to train with us outside. And then it got to the point where the world was slowly starting to open up again. And then we were like, okay, well, fuck, what do we do? Because everyone's just going to go back to their own gyms, and then we got no gym to go back to and work at. So we basically just found a place and hoped for the best, took it, got charged through the roof to pay for it. But
did you? During that time even?
During that time, it was... It was and still is like probably one of the most expensive facilities on the beaches, but they weren't really doing any walkthroughs at the time. Like you weren't allowed to go look at properties. So I went to school with the guy and we hit him up on Messenger, and he came and opened up the gym, our old gym on Harbord Road, and showed us sort of, I guess, behind closed doors. And we just took it and kind of just ran from there. Like didn't know anything about it, hadn't really done a plan for it, kind of just took it and hoped for the best, really.
Damn, during that time, that's crazy, and it was not a big space either.
No,
Especially not if you paid through the roof.
big
that's
big premises, but I think it had lots of potential. Just
just not a lot of floor space.
not
which
a lot
is
of floor space.
What you
yeah,
needed for a type of gym
exactly.
you want to run.
If we owned
Yeah.
it, we could make it what we wanted to make it.
Yeah.
But because we were renting and we were already paying, it was like almost 190 grand a year at the time, which was very
Honestly, I
hard.
don't even know how we paid
That's
for it.
Very hard to
Crazy.
break
Yeah.
even, as you know, with a gym. But
Yeah,
I think
That's
if we
so
owned
expensive
a different
there.
story.
So
Very different
expensive.
story.
yeah.
But kind of served its purpose. I mean, going back into multiple lockdowns, it had all of it had the rooftop and the car park, and all of the outdoor space. I mean, it was kind of the saving grace.
That's right. You guys had a good outdoor space for
Yeah,
when you could
exactly.
do
So,
when
I
you can
mean,
train outside.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nuts. You must have been nervous through that period.
Didn't even think about it.
Didn't
eh?
actually.
Oh, really?
Like honestly,
Yeah.
it was probably one of the most enjoyable times that I've ever had as a trainer. Maybe
And as a gym owner,
because
like,
we were like fuck together. You know, when you're like one
Honeymoon
person
phase.
and you're just
yeah, a
like
little bit.
yeah, and we were just
Wow.
like stoked that we got to like, even when we were at the park, we were stoked to just wake up in the morning and go there and just be doing our own thing, not working for somebody, not somebody like telling you that you're doing the wrong thing or criticizing what you're doing because that's their job. I still believe that we're two of the best trainers on the beaches, or in my opinion, fucking wherever, in terms of the way that we approach our training and the way that we approach our members, the way that we coach it, is very different to the way that some other people coach it.
Yeah.
And I just think that it was nice to be able to be our own person, you know, just to.
Talk a little bit about that. How did you both imagine Tribe being different to other gyms? Because we're in Brookvale, which I believe is actually the most dense gym suburb in all of Australia.
Yeah.
I think in the world.
Maybe even in the world, yeah.
Honestly,
It
it,
is.
wouldn't surprise me.
It's for
heard
gyms
its
over a
radius.
certain price point. It
Yeah.
is by far the most populated gym
Yeah,
place in
definitely.
Australia. So anyone that opens up here, you have to have a point of difference or a slightly different outlook than the other gyms. What did you guys think you guys were going to be?
like from day one, we've always said like we were the brand, right? Like guys were going to come for less than I, and we'd both worked in the industry for long enough to have like I guess drawn enough traction to not have to be like, you know, most gyms have to open up with a strong brand presence already to be able to sell memberships. We had sold them personally, I guess, in previous years. So that was always, I guess, from day one, people were always like, you know, what's your point of difference? What's going to separate Tribe from X, Y, and Z? And without being arrogant, it was like the answer was always going to be me and Les.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we grew up in the area. We played sports with hundreds of different people. We had enough friends in the area that were going to come and support us. We had a shit ton of clients already from, I guess, work that we put in previously. So we kind of just banked on that and backed it and backed ourselves. So I don't think, you know, we really felt the need to sit here and be like, you know, Tribe is different. I mean, a program is the same. The way you deliver it is different and the person that delivers it is different. And we kind of, like, we always believed in that. We always believed in, like, the person that's standing in front of you delivering the session is what's going to sell memberships, not really the brand. I mean, F45 is different, yeah. I mean, their brand probably sells itself.
Yeah.
But for a startup gym, we were kind of like, we're going to do every class. There's going to be 2 coaches on. Me and him are going to be on the floor every day, and we're going to sell the memberships.
Yeah, you're heavily involved, right?
Yeah.
Very very hands-on in the way that you guys do the programming. You train.
Yeah.
Like you train in a lot of the groups.
Set the example.
Coach. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a
Yeah,
point
that
of
was
difference.
pretty much it. Hey,
Yeah.
that was like we were like we don't want to be that gym owner that's sitting on the side telling other people to do a specific job, because it's very hard to like, I guess, vocalize or to show someone how you want something to be done. There's always going to be a point where you're like, no, that's not the way that I want it to be done. And it's like, as you know, coaching people to coach people is really hard, because no one actually can be themselves at the beginning. You know, they can't actually let their personality show, because all they're thinking about is, oh fuck, okay, now you've got to like take your feet like shoulder width apart, turn your feet out, shoot your knees out, instead of just watching the person do a movement and then evaluating as you go. You know, so for us it was like being personable, being there for the people in the beginning, being like, a little bit more like a friend rather than a robotic coach,
Yeah.
you know. And then the program came into it, and we were like, okay, fuck, these people are enjoying this, these people are enjoying this. Let's merge it together. Let's try and find some middle ground between CrossFit and strength and conditioning, where people are not fearful of coming into the gym having to do bar muscle ups. Let's go, okay, have two different programs and give people two different options, and that's like evolved over time. We've gone back and forth. We go off feedback of our members, and the way we collect that feedback is not often through like a feedback form. It's just talking to them, you know. Like most of our coaching, if you come and watch us coach, we're just talking to the members, you know. We're not there screaming at them, being like, let's fucking go, let's push, blah blah blah. We're not that kind of coach, you know.
Cheerleading.
And nothing against those type of coaches, because I envy the way that they're able to do that as well. But we like to talk, get on a personal level. If we can add value to their lives by offering some form of help in the way of their actual life, rather than just thinking, okay, all I can offer is my coaching, then it's a job well done, you know. And that's how you keep members. That's how you keep them in your community. That's how you make them feel involved in the community. It's not about the program. It's not about how good you are as a coach. It's about your ability to be personable with the people that are paying your bills, basically, you know.
And all of this is also ever evolving, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's never
Never.
it's
Set in
never the
stone,
set.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the gym floor downstairs and your layout. It's just it's
Constantly
never going to be
changing.
perfect.
No.
It's never done.
Yeah.
It's always like adjusting a little bit.
And
here
because
there.
we're both like ADD and we look around every day, we come in and to us it just looks the same, or it looks boring, or it looks like
It needs work.
it looks like
it's
it
just-
needs some form of more organization. The programming needs to be like this, and this. We're constantly trying to find this perfect like medium where every single person can enjoy the experience, you know, and including us. Like, we want it to be somewhere where we can come in the middle of the day after we've coached 4 hours in the morning and we're fucking mentally drained, that we can come in and it's like attractive to us, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
very hard.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think because we're around it so much, it gets boring. It gets like a little bit monotonous, and we want to see continuous change. We want them to see continuous change, and we want them to see that we're the ones putting in the work to make it better for them.
I
You
think
know?
like on top of that, like just as important was like the other people that we put in the gym as well. I was like, to start with, me and Les were obviously like the most important faces, but I think like as a lot of gyms grow, they start to obviously hire more coaches, and those people are probably just as important, if not more important than I guess the people that start it, right? Everybody's going to slowly step back a little bit, and the people that you put on the floor really need to represent that gym properly. And I think we've been very lucky with the coaches that we've been able to bring on with us and help us grow the gym. I mean, Shanae, Jack, Cherie recently,
Yeah.
they're all great coaches.
Yeah. It's hard to find good people.
100%. And
We
it's
got
hard to
so
find
hard.
people that like care enough. So, I mean, we've been very lucky, and that's probably just as much I guess a point of difference was the coaches that we had across the board were probably like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but personally I feel like all of our coaches, I'd be just as excited to come in and do one of their classes as I would my own. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things for us. And the moment that we noticed somebody was not feeling that way about a certain coach, we were pretty quick to, I guess, hit it on the head.
Yeah.
We were never going to let the members have a coach that they weren't happy to train with, I guess. So yeah, I guess that's probably just important as well. I feel like it's the small things that people miss. Everyone wants to have this brand and this presence and this freak program that doesn't really exist, when if you can just have the right person in front of the people, it's probably the biggest, I guess, point of difference across every other gym, you know.
You guys need it for longevity as well, though. You can't, like, in the beginning you can, sprint a bit and do a lot of it, but after a while, to keep the motivation up, you do need to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Very draining. It's nice when you can look at another coach that you've hired and you're like, fuck, man, like, I should coach better. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
get
should-
pumped up.
I
They
should-
motivate
I
us
should
as
be,
well.
Yeah,
I should be
that's good.
that attentive to that situation, you know, and like, it's fucking hard to come by. There's literally very few people that are going through all these fitness schools and all that sort of stuff now that are like genuinely there for the right reasons. You know?
100%.
And unless they're bought in, unless they have a vested interest in the company or whatever, and especially these days with the, I guess, new crowd that's coming through, they just want to have it all now, you know.
Yeah.
No one wants to like work for 5 years at Fitness First and work through the ranks, you know. They can see, okay, fuck, I just saw on social media that I can just go and be an online coach and I can follow these funnels
Yeah.
and I can make all this money without having
Yeah.
to do anything. But it's like the more that you're in front of people, the better that you're going to get, you know.
Yeah.
There's no I guess going around that, and you can see the bullshit
Yeah.
from
Well,
a mile
especially in
away.
a gym like this, when you're coaching people, you have to have a good one. Like, you have to be able to relate and talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, how do you picture Tribe in a year or so ahead? What's the plan for the future?
Fuck, so much.
Probably too much.
Yeah, that's
Like,
good.
We're
It's a good sign.
non-stop thinking about things. Week by week, we are like disappointed about something, thinking something's getting stagnant. It's like, really, we call each other like every week and we're like, do we scrap this? Do we add this in? Should we do this? And it's like, I think we see it growing. Obviously, you know, Marrickville has opened. We haven't even mentioned that once, but like Marrickville has opened now, and we've opened that with James Magnuson and Rob, which has been like one of the coolest experiences. Just realizing that we have a replicable product, and it's fucking quite easy to replicate, to be honest, with the right coaches, as we said. But we see ourselves having a few, right? Like,
Yeah, that
really,
would be, I guess.
Where's the
end
dream
goal.
location for the next one?
I'd say
Dream location?
dream location,
Bar
Broad
Bay.
Beach.
Oh, Gold
Probably
Coast, yeah.
Burley. Also because I want to live there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
For sure.
we've looked
Somewhere
at a few.
close. Monaval. Monaval
Yeah.
would be nice to have still our client base here. Give these guys an option to go there. Give them an option to come here. Make it a bit more of like a universal membership would be like ideal situation. Obviously, that there's logistics involved. I'd say aiming for 5 locations would be really cool. To the point where we also offer online programming to people that can't actually make it to a Tribe gym. There's so much stuff, content creation. Obviously, we're not in front of the camera very often in terms of the way that we speak or anything like that, but we'd love to develop that side of our game. I think we have a lot to offer in that realm. It's just a matter of finding the time, really. You know,
Yeah,
as a
I
coach,
guess.
as a dad, as a fucking athlete, we need to get this athlete thing out of our system first.
definitely.
We need to make the games, honestly. Like, really, that's what we've spoken about. Like, the focus is now get your fucking ass to the games and do whatever you can.
That's probably like top of the list now.
Yeah.
I think building the brand as well, rather than, as I said before, it was kind of always just me and Les. I think we'd like to develop Tribe as a brand now, which hopefully having Marrickville will start to do that.
Yeah.
And then having partners with like James, obviously, he's quite a high profile person,
Yeah.
help us do that. So if we don't necessarily open up multiple studios, it would be cool to start to build a little bit more of a brand presence rather than, oh, Les and Tom work at that gym. Let's go and get
Yeah.
coached by them. I think that's probably the only way that multiple studios are going to be successful, if we can kind of develop that and offer a little bit more.
Bit easier to scale a brand than yourself.
But I should probably stop hiding behind the camera.
bit of learning, really. Hey,
Yeah.
like just learn things from different people. We've worn so many hats over the last 2 years that we've half done things, and I think I've learnt this from Tom mostly, is that whole under promise, over deliver. And I'm a big over promise, under deliver kind of guy, you know.
There's pros and cons to either.
I have a lot of dreams, but in terms of starting, continuing, and finishing, I have a little bit of an issue because I'm always looking for the next thing, and there's never a time when I'm like really just fucking locked in, you know. And I think we'd like to find a bit of a rhythm where we have a set schedule, and we enjoy having our flexible schedule because it allows us to be athletes and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, having a set schedule, getting our systems right, creating a brand, as Tom said, and just making sure that we like have a bit more of, I guess, a consistent life rather than this one where we're just going back and forth trying to figure out what's wrong, what's not wrong. And
Sounds
just
like you need a
fucking
little
set
bit
it
more
in.
structure in some areas.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, most
But at the
people
same
do.
time, it's nice. It's nice not having structure too,
Yeah.
you know. Like,
Yeah.
but I think we've lived that for long enough now, and I think we're ready to go. I guess next level. You know.
It's not that we like necessarily unhappy with it either. It's probably more so like how do we continuously grow? It's probably just like that mentality more so than we're not happy with it, or the structures are bad, or the systems are poor. It's probably just how can we improve? Like I think anyone that wants to be better is going to have to ask themselves that at some point, right? And try and figure it out.
And it sounds like the structure might come a little bit more when you finally retire from competing.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the problem.
In a way, we can't wait for
Yeah.
it to be over, but at the same time, we only have
You still love
a few
it.
years.
Yeah.
You know? We
You
have
still-
a few years to set an example. And we talk about it and we talk ourselves up all the time that we're going to win shit. Like we go into a comp and we have no doubt in our mind that we're going to win that comp, even if we have no fucking chance in hell of winning the comp. But that's our mindset, and I think that we need to act on it, and we need to show people that we can do it. You know, like we're pretty like everyday people. You know, we go out when we need to go out. We don't eat overly well in terms of being athletes. We train pretty normal. We don't do 2-a-days. We don't do like anything insane. But I feel like if we apply ourselves in the right areas, there's no fucking chance we're not making the games at some point, you know. And if we find the right combination of girls, especially, then we have everything that it takes to get there. You know, we got the mental application. We got everything we need. We're confident enough, definitely, to get there. It's just a matter of getting there. I want to get Tom to the games.
How many more years do you give yourself to make the games?
Fuck it, as long as it takes.
Okay.
the quicker the better. Then we can focus on the
Ideally
business,
soon.
you know. But I'd say 2-3 years.
Yeah. It's hard. Teams is different too because it's not all up to you.
Yeah.
If you compete as an individual, everything, falls on you, succeed or fail. But a team, it's a puzzle. You need all the pieces to come together.
And every year that we kind of like miss out is just every year the standard gets higher. It's like
People are just getting better,
would have
man.
got us through 5 years ago is not even close to getting us through.
No.
And then
Oh, definitely. But I think I would say though the level is it's not plateauing, but it's getting flatter. It's not going as steep as it used to do.
Yeah.
Because like you said, 5 years ago, every year was just crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
But now it's so high, it's not increasing as much per se.
yes.
Yeah. But
I
it's
think people are
it's
getting-
bloody hard still to make it. So, I'm not saying that.
People are getting shorter as well, which is making it a lot harder for us.
They can't get much shorter. They're already so short.
Fuck me dead. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. But it's exciting. It's good.
No, that's perfect. I think that's a good place to wrap it
Yep.
on the first episode.
Yep.
A little bit of a backstory on Tribe and then future goals, making the games. It's out there in the ether now. So
we've put it out there.
Yeah, that's
Better not
that
fucking
increases your chances.
Overpromise, underdeliver.
Nah.
See?
When you put it out, increases it by 50% that
Yeah.
you're gonna make it.
You
so.
got to manifest. You have to.
That's right. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back at some point because there's no structure yet with this. But we'll definitely do another
See you
episode.
soon. Thanks,
See you guys.
bye.